everyone, it's Max, and today I am here with the Mid-Year Freakout book tag. I am very excited to be doing this. I've been seeing it everywhere on YouTube and BookTube, and I did this last year, and I'm really excited to also do it this year. So without further ado, let's just get into it. There are 13 questions. I will leave a link to the creator down below. But the first question is, what was the best book you have read so far? Now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't read a whole lot of books that have really stuck with me. That I've just like known immediately that this is like a new favorite, like forever. Like Rhythm of War last year was definitely that. So I went with actually a very recent read. I read it last week, and that was Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. And I think it also surprised me. There is a puppy with me, so if she whines or barks, I do apologize. But Best Served Cold was about this girl who is the captain of 1,000 sellswords, and she helped a duke win a war. But the duke becomes threatened when she becomes more popular than him and his sons, so he tries to kill her, and he succeeds in killing her brother, so she swears revenge. She teams up with a bunch of misfit people to go against the duke, and it was so good. It is a one and done, it's a standalone, and it is just phenomenal. I really enjoyed it, and I didn't really love the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, so if you didn't love that trilogy but kind of want more from him, or just want to see if you might like something else by him, I do suggest Best Served Cold because it was so good. Question number 2 is the best sequel you have read this year, and I'm going with Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. I did not like Kings of the Wild really at all. I found it very boring, very standard, just like didn't really like any of the characters. They didn't really stick with me, but I already owned Bloody Rose, so I decided to pick it up, and boy was it the opposite. I really enjoyed Bloody Rose. I really liked Bloody Rose. I liked our main character, who now I can't remember the name of, and this follows a group of people that almost feel like a D&D campaign, where like we have a rogue, a bard, a barbarian, a blah blah, and they are trying to find out who is raising these people and creatures from the dead. And I really enjoyed this one. I liked it a lot. I think on Goodreads I gave it like a 5 out of 5 stars, but it's probably more like a 4.5. But honestly, it was so much fun. I really liked our characters, and there's a third book. I don't know if there's gonna be more if this is a trilogy, but I'm really excited to pick it up when it comes out. Question number 3 is a new release that you really want to get to, and I'm going with Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. Now, this recently skyrocketed to the top because I'm in the middle of reading Daughter of Sparta. That is the Daphne and Apollo myth retelling, and Ariadne is in it. And so I am really pumped. It's actually quite short, so I'm really excited about this. I don't even know if it's like even 300 pages. Oh, it's like just 300 pages. But I am really excited for this. The cover is beautiful, and this tells the myth of Ariadne and Theseus. Ariadne is the sister of the Minotaur and the son or the daughter of Minos, who created the labyrinth, or had someone create the labyrinth, and she helps Theseus get through the labyrinth. I'm really excited, especially after being, well, right now I'm in the middle of Daughter of Sparta, but after having that like sequence of events in Minos's country and meeting Ariadne and stuff, I'm like really pumped for this. All right, question number 4 is my most anticipated release, and for this I'm going with She Who Rides the Storm. And this follows 4 characters who all end up in the tomb of an old shape-shifting king trying to steal a magic sword. I have seen arcs going around of this, and it is beautiful. I am so intrigued, and I am so excited to pick it up. It looks just really good, and it seems like a really fun time. And it's a heist story with a found family, probably. Who doesn't love that? Question number 5 is your most disappointing read of the year, and I do have a couple, but one of the biggest ones is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I heard this was like space necromancer lesbians, and I was so all for that. And it was also, I heard, enemies to lovers, hate to love, but I don't like the love interest, Harrow. Don't like her at all. Oh yes, I know, dear you are. Dear you are. I don't like her at all. I think she is so awful. She's one of those characters, she was one of those characters that was like, I know that I hate you for ridiculous reasons and it's absolutely absurd that I've been so mean to you, but I kept doing it for fun. And people like love Harrow and I cannot stand her. I like Gideon, but like the end of Gideon the Ninth, like, I mean, I think some people see it as like a cliffhanger. I just see it as like, oh great, so Harrow's now our main character. I cannot read a book where she's the main character. Of course, I thought the same about Nesta, and yet here I am now a Nesta stan. But I just wanted to love this and just really, really didn't. And I have really no interest in picking up the sequel, like, at all. Question number 6 is biggest surprise. And for this, I'm going to have to go with an arc of a sampler that I got of Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff, because I loved this so much. I thought it was so good and I can't believe it. This takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. I don't think it's Earth, where the sun is dying, and because the sun is so weak, vampires have risen and are prospering, and our main character is part of a very small sect of people that can fight and kill vampires, and our main character is Gabriel, and it is one of those stories that is one of my favorite tropes, where they are in like a dire situation retelling their story. So Gabriel is kidnapped by vampires and a historian vampire is having him recount his story, and I am loving it. I'm loving it. It's so good. I have 320 pages left, or 30 pages left, because I got a 400-page sampler and I'm dying for it. It comes out in September and I just cannot wait. It's so good. I like need to finish it. And honestly, I'm just so surprised because most of the time Jay Kristoff books take me a minute to get into. The Nevernight trilogy, I didn't just love it automatically. The only book that I've ever like really been like immediately drawn into was Illuminate, and he co-wrote that with Amy Kaufman. So I was not expecting to love this so fast, especially with how long it is, but I was immediately taken in and just so interested and so into it. I really like Gabriel. I really like some of our side characters, and I'm just dying to see what happens next. I cannot wait. Question number 7 is a new favorite author, and for this I'm actually going with Katie Robert. Now, I have not read Neon Gods. I'm reading it in a couple weeks, but I read the entire Wicked Villain series by her and I really, really enjoyed them. I think she does smut really well. I think her characters are really great, and I actually like am intrigued with like the semblance of plots that she has. The Wicked Villain series is a erotica romance series that are like Disney movie retellings where the main character gets with the villain. And I really enjoyed them. Neon Gods is a Hades Persephone retelling. Cannot wait for it. But honestly, I really love her books. And so I think she's now become like an auto-read author where I will read basically anything that she puts out. I have requested an arc of Electric something, which is the sequel to this one. That is an Eros and oh god, whoever Aphrodite's son's name is, which I'm really pumped about, but I am really hoping to love this one. But I do like Katie Roberts' books in general. Question 8 is newest fictional crush, and without a doubt, I had to go with Tybalt from the October Day series. I love Tybalt. I love him so much. I was so into him from the beginning. He's like this, he's the king of cats, he's a fae, and he's just like so great. He tried to like hate October, our main character, just out of principle of being like, you're half human, I shouldn't like you, but then like begrudgingly started to fall in love with her. I love him. He is like such like, he's like surly, but also just has like this huge heart of gold. He doesn't try to, if it's like a known fact that he likes someone, he doesn't try to like pretend not to. He's like, he loves with his whole heart and he's so protective, but not in like a bad way. Like, he lets October like do what she wants. He's like, I'm just gonna follow along for the ride because I don't want you to be alone. And he's just like so helpful and he's so useful, and I love Tybalt so much. I started the October Days series in January. I read a book a month and I have loved almost every single one of them. And part of it is very much because of October, but also very much because of Tybalt. All right, the next question, question number 9, is newest favorite character. And honestly, this was the plot twist of the century for me, because it's Nesta. Nesta Archeron is now one of my favorite characters, and I cannot believe it. I hated Nesta in the Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy. Hated her. Thought she was useless. Couldn't stand her. Thought she was okay at the end of A Court of Wings and Ruin when she like does something. But then like she just was so awful in A Court of Frost and Starlight that I honestly was dreading reading this. But I got it for my birthday and I just, you know, it was just staring at me. So I picked it up and I only liked Nesta in this. Cassian was on thin ice, as was, oh, the other guy. The other Fae who's Cassian's like best friend. Everyone else, and Farah, she was also on thin ice. Everyone else, including Rhysand, was broken through the ice. There was some really awful stuff that happened that I was so angry about. And Nesta was the only valid one. Who am I? I hated Nesta. I was always like, I will never like Nesta. Nothing she could do would make me like her. But honestly, reading this, I was like, it was so hard to hate her because no one can hate her as much as she hates herself. Like, she hates herself. And it just like broke my heart. I was like, girl, I was like, stop being so hard on yourself. And it was just like, it became impossible to hate her. And I cannot believe this has happened to me. I cannot believe this has happened to me. But I love Nesta now. I'm a Nesta fool. So here we are. What has happened? Question number 10 is a book that made me cry. And I am going to have to go with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I bawled like a baby. This is about a girl who makes a deal with a kind of like the devil, a demon, on the day of her wedding so that she doesn't have to get married. And it was freedom. And what the devil decided was freedom was that no one would remember her as soon as she left a room. So if she met someone, they would like remember her as long as she was in eyesight, but then as soon as she left or they left, they forgot about her. That included her family, her friends, and anyone in the future. She's also immortal. And so it's like 300, 400 years later where she finally meets someone who remembers her. And this was just so good. V.E. Schwab is not an author that I love. I love her ideas, so I continue to read her books, but they always disappoint me. Not The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. And it was very obvious that this was something that was so so near and dear to V.E. Schwab's heart. I know it took her like a long time to write this. I feel like it was her that had this idea for like forever, and now she has finally like published it, and it's very obvious that this is like a love project, and it was just so good. And I'm like, God, V.E. Schwab, if you could write like this all the time, I would love your books. But her writing is not something that I really like, and I think she has these great ideas that she just doesn't put to paper very well. But The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue was so amazing. I sobbed, and that's all I've got to say about it. All right, for question 11, it is book that made me happy, and I am actually going with Lore by Alexandra Bracken. This is the first book I read this year, and I really, really liked it. It makes me happy because it was such a new and inventive idea, but also like Greek mythology. So like it's a new and inventive like retelling idea. So this takes place in America where the Greek gods are real, but 7 gods angered Zeus so much that 1 week every 7 years the gods are made mortal and humans can kill them. If a human kills a god, they take their place as god for the next 7 years until they are mortal again for 7 days and someone else could kill them. If that person then kills that person, they become god. What an amazing idea. Honestly, it was such a fascinating idea. And it is like 12 families that are able to do this. And they're like families that are based on like different like heroes and creatures. And our main character really wants revenge against Ares, the now Ares, the false Ares, because he killed her family. And she teams up with the real Athena. She is one of 3 gods, like original gods left, and her best friend who was missing for 7 years. I really, really liked this. It's a standalone. It was so fast-paced. It was so amazing. I've got the Fairy Loot edition. It's gorgeous, and I really just loved it. I thought it was such a great, inventive, new idea, and it just made me really happy. I really love Lore as a main character. I thought she was so great. She knows, like, she's got anger issues, and so she'll yell, and then she'll be like, I'm sorry, I've got anger issues, I'm working on it. And she actually is working on it. And she's just so, like, self-aware of, like, her issues, and I never get that from, like, YA protagonists. But she was so great. The book was so great. I was really happy with it. Question number 12 is the most beautiful book you bought this year, and I am going to have to go with Troy by Stephen Fry. I got the UK edition in Jordan when I was flying home from Egypt, but I think it is stunning. The orangey gold foil and the silver, and it's just telling the story of Troy. And also the end pages are like a timeline. And it's just, I think it is just a stunning book that really makes me think of, like, ancient Greek mythology when I just look at this. And I just think it's beautiful, and I'm so happy that I was able to buy this hardcover gorgeous edition, and I really, really enjoy it, and I'm really happy it's in my collection. This tells the entire story of Troy, from its creation to its destruction, and I think Fry did an amazing job with it. If you're ever interested in Troy or ancient Greece, I definitely suggest picking this up. All right, and then the last question is question 13. What is a book you really want to get to by the end of 2021? I'm going with Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. This has been on many a TBR, and I just have not read it yet. I am hoping in November, I am doing a nonfiction November where I only read nonfiction, and this is going on it. I am nervous, but also very excited, because this tells the story of Anne Boleyn's rise and fall from Thomas Cromwell's point of view. Thomas Cromwell was one of Henry VIII's most trusted advisors. He fought to have, like, Anne Boleyn become queen and Protestantism to prosper, but then he ends up losing his life for it. I am very nervous about this. I've only heard of this in, like, 2 books. One book, they DNF'd the book, and then in The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, they loved it. So I'm really hoping to love this, but I am very scared. I've never read a book besides like talking about, like, Henry VIII's point of view from a man's point of view in this time period. I've always read from, like, the women's point of view, the queen's, Henry VIII's mom for her story. I've never read it from, like, one of the man's point of view except Henry VIII. So I am very nervous, but I'm hoping to love it. All right, everyone, that's my mid-year freak out book tag. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know if you agree with any of these, if they were your favorites or least favorites, or if you just so completely disagree with me. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!